Video coverage of the 27th JCT Traffic Signal Symposium is brought to you by Highways News, thanks to our sponsors AGD Intelligent Traffic Systems, Clearview Intelligence, PTV Group, Message Maker Displays, Smart Video and Sensing, SRL and TRL.
Hello, thank you for having me. This is my first time that I'm speaking in front of this audience, so please bear with me, and I hope the nerves don't get the better of me. Paul and I are doing a bit of a double act, so we will be getting up and down, so excuse that as well. So Staffordshire County Council took part in the Adept Smart Places Live Labs project, which was launched in 2019. This was a £22.9 million project, which was funded by the DfT to implement digital innovation. We worked in partnership with Amy to deliver this project, and recently we were nominated for the collaboration category at the CIHT 2022 Awards, which was last week, and I'm pleased to say that we were highly commended for that. We surprisingly received 130 applications from SMEs for the project. And they went through a vigorous selection process and a Dragon Den style interview panel, and we chose 10 projects from that, and No Wireless was one of those projects. There were a selection of briefs which could be chosen to try and combat against using digital innovation. The brief No Wireless chose was, oh, I need to go on, don't I? That would help. There you go, sorry. The brief that No Wireless chose was the one in Newcastle-Under-Lyme, which is in Staffordshire. They proposed to predict pollution an hour ahead using artificial intelligence, which would trigger our TMS system with special plans to gate traffic on the outskirts of town. The plan being to reduce pollution at the care home. Throughout the paper, we will explain how we got on delivering the project, and we'll evaluate the positive results in reducing air quality measures and share our future thoughts to how we would like to progress this technology in Staffordshire. So the site locations, we worked with No Wireless to figure out what sites that we would pick to install their kit. The way we chose that, we selected sites based on a few factors. So we looked at sites that were located on main roads, where the traffic would be heavily populated, and those on UTC to help on communication expenditure, and also those in more rural locations to kind of help with the projected plan of gating.
Thank you, Emily. There we go. So once the sites around Newcastle-Under-Lyme were chosen at each site, we installed air quality sensors and digital trackers. And using Sensory, our in-house back office software, to import the data from the sensors, we then analysed the results and discovered which routes were the busiest. This would hopefully ensure that any air quality plan put in place would have the biggest impact. And the image here shows one such route analysis showing the percentage of traffic from one site to all the other chosen sites. We repeated this exercise until we found not only the most congested route, but also the route that had a site with a clear open field nearby, and also a strategic location, in this case, a care home. So showing an improvement in air quality around a care home would show that we'd be improving the life of the residents of the home. And the route from Talk Road, Bradwell Lane to Lower Street, Church Street met both these criteria. So there's a lot of technology used in this trial, and I know that at the beginning of the TTF forum this year, there was a lot of talk about having good communications to get good data from on-site, from on-street sensors. And here, from proof of concept to initial installation of digital tracking sensors and data analysis through the SenseView system to then implementing an air quality plan. We used air quality devices to measure NO2 before and after the plan to make sure we were doing the right thing and actually improving air quality rather than the other way around. And we wanted to collect and use as much data as possible. So we used digital trackers to make sure journey time wasn't being affected, along the chosen route, and we used weather stations and NO2 detectors to get a clear picture of the air quality along the route. AI technology and CCTV were deployed to count and classify the vehicles going past both sites and in both directions. And this helped us understand what vehicles were using the route and whether that had an impact on air quality. And the communications for this project was all done over XA, 4G and 5G modems. And then finally, our City AI was used to forecast NO2 levels and to send a trigger when high levels were predicted to occur. So for this project, although we could look at different gases and particulates, we chose NO2. And we wanted to make sure that we weren't having a negative impact on air quality, as stated. And we wanted to make sure we weren't having a negative impact elsewhere around Newcastle-Under-Lyme. So we installed 8 sensors altogether around Newcastle-Under-Lyme, with the key sites being the site closest to the care home and Liverpool Road, London Road, which was chosen as the site where NO2 could disperse safely and was one site down from the original very busy route that we saw there. The image here shows the NO2 at the care home site calculated in real time with a maximum, minimum and average NO2 levels, all in parts per billion plotted on a graph. And the dotted line there shows what the levels should try and be under, which is 21 parts per billion over the year. And below the graph there is the raw data showing the time, the location, the value, and all of that could be exported to be analysed at a later date.
Thanks, Paul. So with the busiest route identified and the closest rural location was selected near to this route to gate the traffic. So we configured the controller with 2 extra stages which gated inbound traffic to the centre of town. So one stage held them for 10 seconds and the other stage held them for 20 seconds. So within the controller and TMS, we configured 2 extra bits on the bit pattern to connect the AI with the TMS. So the one bit would trigger the 10 seconds and the higher the pollution levels would trigger the 20-second stage. The AI would predict the spike in NO2 1 hour in advance, and when triggered, a system-activated fixed-time plan within TMS would be implemented, taking the site off scoot, which would introduce the additional stage triggered. By predicting the spikes allows it to be reactive rather than acting after the event, and a system-activated plan takes a few cycles for it to be implemented, so actually it was in our favour that it was before an hour in advance. The AI software would make new forecasts every 5 minutes. Once the levels are predicted to reduce, the AI would remove the trigger, which would take it off the plan, returning it back to run scoot. So I am a novice when it comes to TMS, and lots of colleagues who'd help with the success of the project. With the collaboration of working with Amy, speaking with ITS colleagues across the industry, and help with Swarco with TMS, and this seemed the best solution for us. I'm sure there might be more genius ways of doing this, maybe with the use of a UTMC system, but unfortunately we don't have that luxury.
Thanks, Emily. So as Emily has just stated, we took the data from the sensors at the site, NO2 detector, the weather station data, and the digital tracker. And then using our City AI predicted when NO2 levels would exceed a certain value. This would then trigger the TMS using our controller interface to gate or just hold back the traffic for a set amount of time. By extending the time, the traffic light was red for the traffic travelling from Liverpool Road, London Road, to the care home. In this case, we set the wait time to be additional 10 seconds. In this way, we were looking to be proactive in reducing the NO2 levels before they build up, as opposed to reacting to existing high levels of NO2. So this diagram shows how the gating plan would work. Once our City AI had analysed all the data from the sensors, it starts to predict NO2 levels based on this data, not only in real time, but the historic data. And once the NO2 levels reached a predicted trigger point, then the controller queries the TMS, which then extends the red for the set length of time, which was, in this case, 10 seconds. We didn't want it to be too long to affect the drivers and to make sure it was almost seamless. The graph on the right is from a previous trial where we had a kit installed in Coventry. So you have a blue line and the red line there, and it was showing NO2 in real time and predicting an hour ahead and then pushing that data back. As you can see, the difference from that is very small. We have done 3 hours ahead prediction, and although the peaks and troughs do match, there was still too significant an error, so we decided to stick with the 1 hour predictions when triggering the gate. And I'll finish passing on to Emily.
Okay, so the results. The two graphs show that the journey times didn't change and NO2 spikes flattened. So I think it's the yellow, is it? Yeah, so the blue is without it working, and then the yellow is with it working. And as you can see there on the slide, the key points, we were able to reduce the parts per billion in the AM, lunchtime and PM peaks. So although a reduction in air quality was a brief for this project, to enable this could have impacted elsewhere on the network. So it was positive for us to see that journey times were not changed much, if at all. As most of you hear from local authorities might appreciate, members of the public are quick to complain when there's congestion. Unfortunately, we haven't had one complaint yet. Hopefully, I've not spoke too soon with that. So yeah, conclusions and next steps. So we're going to continue working with No Wireless. Really got on well with them, working with them, and I would recommend them to anyone. Paul, you can pay me later for that. With my inexperience with TMS, this did make the process a little longer to figure out how to communicate between No Wireless's kit and ours with the implementation of plans. We are keen to look at longer gating times to reduce NO2 further. To aid this, we've discussed using CCTV to alert us of congestion, so this doesn't impact on the wider network. No Wireless are researching to turn whether it's a benefit to turn the forecasting on and off. We would like to implement further gating sites within Newcastle to help further, which we just need to look at budgeting with that, because we just picked the initial one site first. So we weren't able in the first part of the project to do any more than the one site, unfortunately. And then a consideration that further particulates could also be measured using No Wireless's kit. And then lastly, we've also included solutions for this in other towns in Staffordshire within a level up fund we've just bid for. So hopefully we'll be successful with that. And that's it. How's anyone?
Thank you very much indeed, Emily and Paul. Again, it's great to actually see, people being proactive in trying to address air quality in urban areas, because although carbon seems to be very, very high on the agenda, I don't think we should forget the air quality problems. Trying to get win-win for air quality and carbon is a real challenge. Questions?
Yeah, I've got a question about parts per million or parts per billion. That seems very, very low. So what is the safety levels and what are you actually getting?
So 21 is what the councillors are required to get under over a year, and we're seeing above and below that. But that's the idea, that it has to be below 21 parts per billion. It might seem low, but this isn't really. Yeah.
Because I think that's difficult. I'm not a scientist, so having a sort of logic behind that, because I think everybody's going to be driving towards that. But hybrid and electric cars, is that having any effect? Because obviously that's becoming more and more. So is other factors influencing what you're doing besides gating the traffic signals? That's my other question.
Sure. So we are looking at, as mentioned earlier, with the AI and the CCTV, to look at vehicle count and classification. And with the ANPR that we're developing as well, you can distinguish between electric vehicles as well as petrol and diesel. So all of that, as well as looking at pedestrians and cyclists and recognising those, will all contribute to it, and hopefully we'll then have the evidence to show that.
We have to actually, if I can intervene here, we have to be very careful, because electric cars and hybrid are not the panacea, because we've still got the particulates, and we can't really get rid of those, because with the electric vehicles, So, this is why it's important to continue to also address the air quality problems. NO2, you're right, is the most important today, but come another
PM
5 years, it'll be PM. That's the problem. Any other questions? Keith? It's a good way to keep fit, isn't it? I should swap jobs.
I think I'll apologise for making a run up the stairs then.
Thank you.
Keith McCabe, ITS UK Carbon Ambassador. And the first thing I want to say is, I suppose from the point of view of ITS UK, I'd like to congratulate not just the speakers in this session, but all the speakers that were speaking today on the environmental issue. Because I think what you've shown is, if you put environmental issues and carbon issues to the fore, you can have a good outcome, both for the environment, technology, and for the travelling public. So I think you've joined them all up together well. But I've got a question for Emily, which is really, is there anything you think the industry could do better to help promote things like this, and to actually make sure that more schemes put environmental issues to the fore?
I think speaking openly at events like this, to be honest, and sharing what we've done, I'm hoping that this project that we've shared today, others can implement in their authorities. And also, I'm a part of the MHA group, Midlands Highways Alliance group, and I know that we share a lot of best practice in that. So I think just talking about it and communicating with other colleagues from across the industry is the only way really that can be done. A massive battle for us is budget with most local authorities. Darren, sorry to put you on the spot, maybe more funding from the DFT to kind of do these things would be a benefit as well.
Thank you. The last question there.
Hi, Matt Clayton, Dorset Council. Did you take any nitrous oxide readings in your gated area to see what impact there was in the gated area? So being able to take an overall impact of the nitrous levels.
Yes, so one of the sites, we had 8 sites all around Newcastle-Under-Lyme, and obviously the important ones were where we're gating and where we're looking to reduce outside the care home. So we didn't see a significant, as the data there, and say we've got a stand so you can always come and have a look at the data yourself. But at the site there was no noticeable increase, because we were only holding the traffic back for an extra 10 seconds. It was more about flattening out that spike outside the care home. It was the important result of this project. And we didn't see any other negative impact across the whole of the Newcastle-Under-Lyme for the 8 sites that we picked.
Thanks very much indeed. Thank you. Can we...
Thank you.